Welcome to the Online Trainer Show, where we help fitness and nutrition pros take better care of their clients and build profitable businesses. I'm Jonathan Goodman, and as always, I'm joined by Amber Reynolds. We're happy you're here. Let's start the show. You want to know about my drink?
I do, because I seem to recall you making fun of Carolina for her, crazy purple drink, and I see a hint of color in your drink.
No, there's no color. That's the color of the cup. It's
okay.
It's soda water now. Carolina's purple drink was weird. I mean, the girl. There are so many things I can say about Carolina. Carolina. Wow. For those of you who listen to that podcast with her, she was a firecracker. I love Carolina.
Yeah, for sure.
It was so much fun. She lives not too far away from me, right, in Toronto, but she lives in a town called Barrie, which we just don't the small stepsister town of your town. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just don't go there. And her boyfriend, who she lives with, just happens to be the mayor of that town, which makes it way easier to make fun of. Which is actually a really big deal. It's actually a massive town.
But he's not a normal mayor, though. Let's be clear. He's a Jedi mayor.
He's legitimately a very big deal and a very important person. Which is why I found it so funny to give it shit. But it was super fun when we had them over at Allison's family's cottage. And the mayor and Carolina just came out for a day, and we just had a blast with them. So for anybody wondering, I do love Carolina and consider her a very close friend. And the only people who I'm going to openly make fun of like that are people that I legitimately really care about. Anyway, this is just bubbly water. But one of the things that I love is when somebody comes out with just a better way of doing something in exchange of something that's just commonly accepted, that it's just the only way to do it. So this is a 2-liter bottle of bubbly water. Now, the really annoying thing about carbonated water is that if you order a big bottle of it, or if you get a big bottle of it, you're never going to drink the whole thing before it goes flat. But this company has created this lid that all you do is just press down here. I'll put it in the camera so that you can see it, Amber. And you press down on the back of it, and it sprays out. And so you don't have to open up the whole thing, letting all the air out. As a result, now, a week out, this is still just as carbonated as it was in the first place. Brilliant. Brilliant. They reinvented the bottle cap. So smart. It's like the dude who looked at envelopes at a bank and was like, yo, we don't have to lick those things. We're just going to turn them into stickers. And then the next dude who was like, yo, we don't even need envelopes. Screw your stickers. Y'all just put the check straight in there. It's holy shit. All of this just happened over the course of 2 years. Ridiculous. Anyway, what are we talking? Egos. We're talking about egos today. This is fun.
Because you know nothing about egos, eh? So do you feel like you have something to talk about?
About what? About egos?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you write a book, you have an ego. let's just get
what
that out there.
What happened if you've written 11?
to sit there by yourself and be like, I have thoughts. And it is important that other people spend hours of their time consuming my thoughts from my brain, because they are more important than any thoughts that somebody else could have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have an ego. But I don't think egos are bad things. And I think that's the misconception. That's what I want to kind of challenge here. There's this big movement towards control your ego, don't have an ego. And I mean, first of all, the fitness industry kind of self-selects for certain types of people, right? The fitness industry self-selects for people who have egos. That's just the reality. Most of us, myself included, got started in high school and university, relatively young, because we wanted to be more attractive to the opposite sex. And I'm not saying all of us, but most of us, that's how we started. That's how I started, right? And, it took me 5 years to figure out that girls didn't actually care that much about biceps. But what I also figured out, and this is super weird, is girls don't care about biceps, they care about confidence, amongst other things, obviously. But they care about confidence. But because guys mistakenly think that girls care about biceps, having biceps gives guys more confidence, which makes them more attractive to women. Therefore, guys should work out biceps. That's what I'm getting at. But I guess the point is, we all worked out because we had an ego that we wanted to like make ourselves feel better and look a certain way. That's why we were driven. A lot of us. I won't say a lot of us. I'll say me. Right. I'll talk as if it's me here, and not in the grand us. I started working out because I had an ego and I wanted to feel like I looked good. That's why I kept doing it. That's what kept me going. That's a lot of what keeps me going now. I mean, yeah, I want to be able to run with my kid. Yeah, I love the fact that I can be that dad in the pool launching my kid in the air, where other kids in the pool swim over to me or come over to me to throw them up because their dads, I don't know why they're not like throwing their kids up in the air, but they're not throwing their kids up in the air, right? Maybe they are in pain. Maybe they're not in as good shape. Maybe they're just tired. Like, who knows, right? The fact of the matter is I have the energy and the strength that like I like chucking kids in the air in the pool. Like that's part of it.
I'm going to take that clip out. I like chucking kids out of the pool.
It's pretty fun. Oh, I launch Calvin. Launch him. Oh my God, he goes high. It's fun. He's getting heavier though. Kid's getting heavier, but not time to eat, not as much. But I guess, my point is, I think it's okay to be okay with having an ego. And I think it's okay to understand that the fitness industry self-selects for people with egos and appreciate that. That's the industry that we're in. You can love it or loathe it, but that's the reality. And it doesn't really matter what you want to be the reality. That's the actual objective reality. So, kind of make do with it. There are ways that like being honest with what drives you is not necessarily a bad thing. You don't need to be all about body positivity and stuff like that, for example, if you really want a good body. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I would even suggest, and this is my own experience with a lot of people that I know, that the loudest supporters of people for movements like body positivity and acceptance are the people least comfortable with their own body. And I know a lot of these people, which is why I'm saying this. I'm not saying it's all of them, right? And I'm not saying it's necessarily a good thing. But the truth is, and this is like the kind of behind this, the curtain thing, is the reason why people boast about stuff, the reason why people are loud about stuff, particularly on the internet, a lot of the time, is not because they are actual champions of that thing, is not because they really even care about that thing more than anything else. It's actually because they lack that thing themselves. And talking about it really loud on the internet and having other people say, hoorah, yeah, I believe in the same thing, makes them feel better, right? We boast about stuff that we lack confidence in order to get the perceived social support in that thing. Or said another way, the dude popping bottles at the club is not the dude who can afford to pop bottles at the club. Straight up. That's how it is. Do you have anything to add, Amber?
Just random hood John showed up. Just my brain just ignore me. I'm tickled. Ignore me.
So, we get frustrated by big egos, right, in the fitness industry. But look, the reality of it is we all have egos. Like, live with it. I mean, I have an ego. Doesn't mean that I don't want to listen to other people. I mean, part of having an ego is being okay with being yourself, being proud of being yourself. and talking about that, championing that, being open about that, but also understanding what you don't know, being okay with what you don't know, and champion that at the same time. And going and getting this support and going and learning from people who might not be as big of a deal as you. Like, I put this on my Facebook last week, Amber, a few days ago, I can't remember, but I have, and of course you and Abigail joked about it. I have so much respect for people who say no to me.
Except for when it's Abigail and I.
I mean, if you work for me, it's different. Then you don't say no to me. No, but I mean, I do, right? Like, if I ask you to do something, and or say, hey, I think that we should, go forth with this effort or whatever it is, and you challenge me on that, and you have a really good reason to challenge me on that, or if I'm overstepping, for example, like Joey, for I don't want to give too much away here.
When he told you he wasn't going to Photoshop your biceps anymore?
No, well, that was. I mean, we're still fighting about that one. No, he showed me the logo for something that's upcoming.
Oh.
And he's like, dude, I made the best logo ever. He's like, I was just doodling, but like, God, for so many reasons. This is the best thing I've ever done. I'm like, dude, can you show it to me? He's like, no. I'm like, why? He's like, because I don't want to show it to anybody until we're ready to go. And I was like, all right, tell you what, I'm going to turn off my camera and my sound, and I want you to hold it up to the screen. And so he did. And so we held it up to the screen and he showed it. And then I turned back on my camera and his sound. And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, doesn't matter. Who am I to tell you what a logo should look like? Like, and so the same type of thing, like part of having an ego is knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know and understanding that there are experts in stuff you don't know and going to them. And so, if you were Abigail, would it be like, here's what I think about customer service, or like, here's what I think about coaching our students at the Online Trainer Academy. Like, who am I? The second that I come in and say, no, you should do it that way, the first thing you guys should say is, no. Right? Because what does that show? Right? That shows that I'm overstepping my boundaries, my area of expertise. And that also shows on your end that you know what your area of expertise is and you're confident enough to say, yo, idiot.
No.
But what brought that message up is I sent out a bunch of messages to industry colleagues, basically I'm putting forward the first new course that I've put together in a lot of years, and it's on time management, productivity, and I'm really, really proud of it. And specifically, I'm really proud of it because this is how I was able to free up the space and time to become the father that I wanted to become. That's why it matters to me, and still run the business. It was very important to Allison, and still very important to Allison, that I love my work and that she doesn't feel like I'm sacrificing my work for the family. And as when she was pregnant with Calvin, this is 5 years ago, I started to put into place and to really dive deep into productivity and time management. And there's nothing about apps and crap like that. It's about mental frameworks. It's about rules. It's about structures that you build around yourself. And it's how I'm able to show up to my family and my business, but mostly to my family. And that's why it matters. And so I thought, we have a beta group going, but I put a message out to a bunch of colleagues, guys who are either new fathers or about to be fathers or entering that period of their life. And I put out a message to about 10 of them. And these are like people doing like important things in the industry. I mean, some of them have big followings, some of them have good followings, but not massive followings, but like doing important things in the industry. Right. And I wanted to put together a private group basically to run through this, but also just like dudes at this stage of our life do not have many people to talk to. Dudes at this stage of our life that are in similar businesses with similar pressures definitely don't have a lot of people to talk to. So I wanted to put together a group of this, right? And so, I wrote a long message talking about the why, talking about, how we were going to facilitate it and stuff like that. And I sent it out to, I think it was 10 people. And And I heard back, right away. I think we have 8 in the group, but and I sent it to a few more afterwards as I thought of a few more guys who I thought would be good fits for it. But a few people didn't respond, and you could see that they saw the message. Some people responded and they said, "No, this isn't for me." Mm-hmm. Hell yes, great. And I said straight up, in the message, a no is just as good of a yes. Right? And some people didn't, some people said yes. A few people had a couple questions just about it. And then some people like Greg Knuckles, for example, is going to be in this group. And I love Greg, runs Stronger by Science. They created the Macro Factor app, which is a really great new app that they just put out. And, he said straight up, he's like, I'd love to be in this, but I don't know if I can be as present in the group as, I'd otherwise like to be. I just have a lot of stuff coming up. And he laid out, and I said, hey man, that's perfectly fine. Thanks for letting me know. I'd still love for you to be in the group. Great. But you don't respond. You saw it. In the time that you clicked off, you could have just said, no, thanks. This isn't for me. I have lost so much respect for the few people. These are colleagues of mine that I've known for years. I mean, friends, maybe not, but I've known them. We've worked together before, right? To not respond is pretty crappy. Yeah. And it's because it's not, again, this goes to the question of the ego thing. It's not because they have an ego because they think they're a big deal. It's because they have so little control over what they know and what they don't know and what they do and what they don't do that they're so unsure that they just default to basically ignoring it. The people who said no, for example, Jamie Alderton. Jay Alderton, if anybody knows him, is in the UK. Mm-hmm. Great guy. Freaking love the guy. Love his material. Love what he does. He coaches mainly fitness professionals now. I love everything about him. He just said, very plain and simply, hey, wish you the best. This isn't for me. Hope you're doing well. You don't need to make excuses. Right? He knew what was important to him at this time. He knew what wasn't, and he knew this wasn't important to him at the time. Great. Right? That to me is the perfect level of ego. To me, the problem is when you have a big ego, but you haven't identified that ego. That's the issue.
Perfect. I think that's a perfect way for us to end this episode. For listeners, just a quick reminder, make sure that you leave us a review.
For my ego.
For his ego. And yeah, for
John's
ego.
Yeah, mostly for that.
Yeah, exactly. Make him feel good.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next one.
Yeah, on to the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.